There is a light above the ark. It's called the eternal light. It never goes out. The custom is created because it says in the Torah, keep the light before the Lord in Exodus.
Hi friends, we're here on the bima, which is what we call the raised portion at the front of our sanctuary. And the centerpiece here is the ark, which is where our Torah scrolls are stored. The parochid, the curtains, are beautiful, and they have images that are from the Ten Commandments, the Hebrew letters down. We open it, thank you. You'll see that we have 4 Torah scrolls with beautiful vestments. Each Torah scroll is complete. We use different ones at different times of the year. And some of them are set for different portions of the Torah. The Torah is the first 5 books of what is called sometimes the Old Testament.
And this is what the Torah looks like. And to read it, we of course go right to left in Hebrew. Here's a break, a paragraph break, a chapter break, and we start right here. And the Hebrew, if you know anything about Hebrew, this is the traditional Hebrew without vowels. It's inappropriate to touch it with your fingers, so we use this implement. We read right to left. As you see, it's a very decorative scroll. Our sanctuary is decorated with artwork, both on the right-hand side and the left-hand side, by prints by a Chicago designer. His name is Katz. And one is the holidays, the major Jewish holidays, and the other are images from, as you see here, images from the Torah. Various scenes from Genesis and Exodus.
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Temple Beth El's Zoom visitor service. I am Rabbi Natalie Louise Shribman. Before we begin our formal liturgy, I want to share a poem with you inspired by this week's Torah portion from Exodus chapter 30, verse 11 to chapter 34, verse 35. We Reach for You, Our God, by Priscilla Stern. We reach for you, our God, from our quiet places. May we stand still for a brief moment and listen to the rain. Stand still for a brief moment and watch the play of sunlight and shadow on the leaves. For a brief moment, listen to the world. Let us stop the wheels of every day to be aware of Shabbat. Find the stillness of a sanctuary, which the soul cherishes. Renew the covenant of an ancient people. We need a quiet space to test the balance of our days, the weight of our own needs against the heaviness of the world's demands. The balance is precarious. Steady us with faith. Quiet places and stillness, where we will hear our own best impulses speak. Quiet places and stillness, from which we will reach out to each other. We will find strength in silence, and with this strength, we will turn again to your service. We take those images of stillness and quiet with us as we begin Shabbat, our day of rest, stillness, and quiet.
We greet the Sabbath with Shabbat Shalom as we meet family and friends on Friday evening. The Torah, the 5 books of Moses, teaches that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th. The 4th commandment of the 10 commandments is to remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. We therefore cherish the 7th day and the evening before it is a day of rest and worship. We share the spirit of Shabbat with family at home and in a non-COVID world in our synagogue for Friday night services. Please join us this evening in our virtual sanctuary.
May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, and hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
Kabbalat Shabbat, receiving Shabbat, is the time when we welcome Shabbat. The service usually begins with an opening song, followed by lighting candles, which symbolize separating the day from night.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יד.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbos. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence fills creation, making us holy with your commandments and calling us to kindle the lights of the Sabbath.
This is a prayer for receiving the COVID vaccine. Adonai, source of wisdom, we are grateful for the knowledge and ingenuity of the scientific community in creating this vaccine. Adonai, source of life, we give thanks for our bodies and their wondrous ability to develop immunities and to heal. May taking this vaccine keep all of us in health and strengthen us as we care for others. With praise for being kept in life, sustained, and being able to reach this moment. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehekianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
The Lechadodi begins on page 138 of our prayer books. This 16th century hymn welcomes the allegorical figure of the Shabbat bride into the Jewish community. Per our custom, I will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. In many congregations, it's customary to rise before the last verse and turn to face the entrance of the synagogue to welcome Shabbat into the congregation. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamov zachor b'dibuch hishmianu el hamayuchad Adonai echad hu shemo echad shemul tiferet v'litila lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelchaki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaser b'machshava tchila lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. התעוררי, התעוררי כי באורק, קומי אורי, 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 שידברי כבוד אדוני, עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Serving to break up sections of the service, the Chatzi Kaddish declares God's sovereignty and authority over the world.
We turn to the Reader's Kaddish, the first formal prayer of our evening service. This prayer is composed of synonyms of praise, foreshadowing the words of the Mourner's Kaddish read at the end of the service. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, V'yama divra chirtei v'yamlich malchutei, v'hayechon v'yomechon v'chayetecho beit Yisrael, v'gala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shma Rabba mivarach me'olam al mei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudashah Berehu. Le'en la min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, t'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen.
The following prayer is called the Baruch Hu. The Baruch Hu is called to worship and is formally the first part of the evening service. When in the sanctuary the congregation rises to praise God, we bow at the waist as a sign of devotion to God. This is followed by the Ma'ariv Aravim, the bringer of the evening prayer, which addresses the cycle of day and night.
La 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 la
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzedvot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
We continue with Ahavat Olam, in which God, like a parent, showers us with love in part by teaching us right from wrong through Torah.
Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws forever.
The following prayer, the Shema, Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one, is directly taken from the Torah, from Deuteronomy. The Shema is the most important prayer for all Jewish prayers. It expresses our belief that one God created the heavens and the earth and is the parent of all people.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Va'avta, you shall love, instructs us to love God, to be devoted to Torah study, and to remember our religious obligations.
The Ve'ahavta, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these words which I command you this day. Teach them diligently to your children. Speak of them when you are at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you arise. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as symbols between your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Remember to do all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am your God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am your God.
We then acknowledge God as the Redeemer of Israel, leading us out of Egypt, and we celebrate that freedom with Mi Chamocha, who is like you. The words taken directly from the Torah, from Exodus, proclaims God's power for splitting the Red Sea. Hashkevenu, give us a place to rest, is a final prayer in this section of the service that asks God for protection as we sleep.
Mi hamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Malhutecha ra'uvanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam zelianu v'yamru Adonai imloch Adonai imloch leolam vaed.
Hashkivenu. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us a shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore.
Good evening, everyone. Let me officially welcome all of you. It really is a pleasure that you all are joining us. We'd like it better in person, but virtually is good. I'm Cindy Pearce, and I'm the president of Temple Beth El, and it really is my privilege to have you all join us. One of the things that those of you who know me know that I like to do is do what I call a short sermonette at each of our services. So that's what's coming. Thank you. A Kenyan runner by the name of Abel Mutai was only a few meters from the finish line, but he got confused with the signs and he stopped, thinking he had finished the race. A Spanish man by the name of Ivan Fernandez was right behind him, and realizing what was going on, he started shouting to the Kenyan to keep running. But Mr. Mutai did not know Spanish, and he did not understand. Realizing what was going on, Fernandez actually pushed Mutai to victory. A reporter came over and he asked Ivan, "Why did you do this?" And Ivan replied, "My dream is that one day we can have some sort of community life where we push ourselves and also others to win." The reporter insisted, "But why did you let the Kenyan win?" And Ivan replied, "I didn't let him win. He was going to win. The race was his." But the reporter insisted and asked again, "But you could have won." Ivan looked at him and replied, "But what would be the merit of my victory? What would be the honor of that medal? What would my mother think of it?" Values are transmitted from generation to generation. What values do we teach our children, and how much do we inspire others to learn? Most of us take advantage of people's weaknesses instead of helping to strengthen them. And this year, I want every one of us to win. Let's push one another to the finish line. We all deserve victory. Thank you.
The Amidah, or standing prayer, begins with 3 blessings of praise. The first extols God's greatness and reminds God of the merit of our ancestors. The second gives examples of the wondrous acts of loving kindness bestowed on us. The third blessing focuses on God's holiness.
We have reached the pinnacle of our service, the Amidah. This is our central standing prayer. Its words come from Psalm 51. The Amidah leads into several blessings, remembering our ancestors, praising God for making us witness to the wonders of nature, and for helping to make us holy on Shabbat, and to remember the sanctity of Shabbat. Our first prayer, Avot V'Imahot, recalls our ancestors. The Givorot speaks of the power of creation of both nature and people and the changing of seasons. The last blessing read is the Kiddushah, which emphasizes God's holy nature. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el hagadol hagibor v'hanora, El Elyon gomel chasadim tovim, v'konei hakol, Mizocher hasdei avot v'imahot, umevi geula livnei bneihem, l'ma'an shemo be'ahava. Melech ozer umoshia umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atarav lehoshia. Mashiv haruach umarid hagashem. Mechakel chaim bechesed, mechaye hakol, berachamim rabim, Somech noflim, Berofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umakayem emunato lishenei afar. Mi chamocha Baal givurot, Umi dome lach, Melech memit, Umachaye umatzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman ata lechayot hakol, Baruch ata Adonai, mechaye hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, v'kadashim b'chol yom yihalu chasela. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh.
Following is the prayer for peace, Sholem Rav, which concludes the Amidah. The congregation then takes time for silent prayer and reflects on the past week and on the week to come.
Shalom Rav. Grant abundant peace over Israel, your people, forever. For you are the sovereign source of all peace. So may it be good in your eyes to bless your people Israel in every season and in every hour with your peace. We'll all pause for a moment of silent prayer.
At this point in our service, we typically read from the Torah and or share a brief sermon. The Torah is the recorded law of God as it was revealed to Moses on Mount Sinai. The Torah contains the first 5 books of Moses: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Each week we read one section of the Torah known as Parashat HaShavua, the weekly Torah portion. The following is written in the book of Deuteronomy. When all Israel comes to appear before your God, Adonai, in the place that God will choose, you shall read this teaching aloud in the presence of all Israel. Gather the people, men, women, children, and the strangers in your communities, that they may hear and so learn to revere your God, Adonai, and to observe faithfully every word of this teaching. Their children, too, who have not had the experience, shall hear and learn to revere your God, Adonai, as long as they live in the land that you are about to cross the Jordan to possess. And so our practice of reading the Torah began. And after the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, Jews were dispersed, and reading the weekly Torah portion became a way to unite us across borders and nations. As Deuteronomy says, even those who were not there for the first public reading will learn this teaching, as it is passed down through the generations and continually read and taught. The Torah has since been divided into 54 portions, allowing for one to be read each week and for there to be additional portions for leap years. This pattern enables each congregation to read from Genesis to Deuteronomy each year, culminating in a celebration of Simchat Torah, where we return to the beginning and start the cycle anew. This week's Torah portion is Ki Tisa, from the book of Exodus. The parasha begins with the instructions regarding census taking and the tabernacle furnishings. It continues with a narrative on the construction and the sin of building the golden calf. The portion ends with several covenantal stipulations. This parsha implicitly describes 3 strategies for sustaining the relationship between Israel and God. The story of the golden calf, an idol built by the Israelites in Moses' absence, highlights the Israelites' disobedience of one of the crucial commandments, not to build a graven image of God and worship it. The reaction to this construction affirms that the tabernacle is the appropriate structure to build to fulfill the people's needs for a physical location where they can gain access to God. The conclusion of various covenantal laws holds Israel accountable to God's laws. Lastly, Moses emerges as a mediator between God and Israel, the go-between who pleads to God on behalf of Israel. The revelation at Mount Sinai is believed to be a wedding of sorts, an eternal, loving joining between God and Israel. The Israelites are forever bound to God's words and will continue to learn from them every day.
The Li Sheberach is a prayer we offer for those who can't attend our Shabbat service due to illness. We pray for God to be compassionate and for their health to be restored. We pray for all of those ill from the virus during this time of pandemic.
And as we sing this prayer, keep in mind those of your loved ones who could use this blessing. Misheberach avotenu mikor habraha limotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor Abraham lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Aleinu begins the completion of our Friday evening service. This prayer is a sign of hope at each service.
We acknowledge with reverence and thanksgiving the one God, maker of heaven and earth, and affirm God's sovereignty over all of creation. Amen.
And now we read our March yahrzeit list. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. May their memories be for a blessing. Mrs. Isaac H. Jacobson, Anna Jacobson, Anna H. Jacobson, Morris Dobranowski, Jeffrey Stein, Irving Uza, Rick Reese, Jerome Sachs, Milton Urbach, Frank Farber, Shavi Cohen, Gustav Levy, Kenneth Scott Cannell, Mildred Lupe Garber, Sienna Lippi, Milton Schumann, Archie Lieberman, Rose Reinstein Samuels, Rebecca Garber, Marvin Solomon, Joseph Jaffe, Mrs. Samuel Janowitz, Mark Levy, Andrew Manhoff, Charles Proctor, Joseph Feston, Carolyn B. Levy, Hugo Marks, Lena Foreman, Kate Levinson, Minetta Levy, Esther Elfman, Isaac Manhoff, Louis Wolfe, Deborah Michael Wood, Mrs. Blumenthal, Albert Wiener, Sam Marmis, Moses Lipman, Serena Vinacour, Dana Kingsley, Marion Magdal, Reuben Euler, and at this point we usually ask if anyone has names to add to the list. And we'd like to recognize over 500,000 people who have now died of COVID in the United States.
At this moment in the service, we think of those in our families, in our congregation, and our community who have died in years past in this season. We think of those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. We lift up their memories, continually working to preserve and live out their legacies. Let us remember them with these words. Yitgadal v'yikadash shemei Rabba, v'yalma divrach chirotei v'yamlich malchutei, v'hayachon uv'yomechon uv'chaye decho beit Yisrael, v'gala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach leolam almei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithale v'yithalal shemei dekudashah v'rehu. Le'en la min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, Za'amiran me'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom bin ramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May their memories be a blessing.
May God bless you and keep you safe. May God's love shine on you and be kind to you. May God's presence be with you and give you peace. Amen.
Thank you for coming, and Shabbat Shalom! Please, if you would like, log in to our Zoom right after this, and we'll answer any questions you have. Thank you.